Hey, good evening, folks. Yes, it's weather-wise, it's not bad. It's been pissing with rain all day, for most part, but it's actually kind of dried up a wee bit. So yeah, thought I would do one of these. I'm actually going to go to the gym later on. Yeah, I've not been for a couple of weeks, so I need to kind of get back at it, as they say. So, yeah, this isn't going to be a particularly long video. You've seen the title. Yeah, SID music. I mean, it goes hand in hand with being a Commodore 64 owner. The first time, I think the first time I heard like the Mighty Bog, I knew that this computer that I'd bought was actually something pretty good. It could actually play music that I recognised, because prior to that it was all stuff like Greensleeves and the Death March, and it was all kind of classical stuff, which was all right, but it wasn't in the slightest impressive. And then yeah, all everything changed from a SID perspective. I mean, it gradually got better. We had things like the loading music for like the US Gold games, Yankee Doodle Dandy and the Star Spangled Banner. And again, that was stuff that we could kind of recognise. But again, it wasn't. You wouldn't load it up. Um, you wouldn't load it up and think this is uh, this is impressive. You wouldn't load it up and let your mates see it or whatever. But yeah, everything probably changed when Thing in the Spring came along, by Gremlin Graphics. Zap, absolutely loved it. I couldn't stand the game. Never been a fan of the game. Whilst the SID tune was daft impressive, I mean, technically it was really, really, really good. It was never a favourite of mine. I didn't particularly. I just didn't get on with it. I mean, it's. I suppose it's a bit like saying, I don't know, like some classical piece. You might hate classical music, but does it make it a bad, not impressive tune? Not at all. And I suppose that's kind of my relationship with Thing in a Spring. But it got better and better and better. And yeah, I mean, what I've done is well, I suppose it is my top 10. I've gone through and I've stuck purely to kind of games that Rob Hubbard has made tunes for. And I've picked. I actually couldn't get it down to 10, so I've left it as 11. That's a bit a theme of me doing these things. Yeah, I mean, trying to narrow down Rob Hubbard stuff to 10 or 11 is very difficult, because there's very few. There's nothing. Everyone's a classic, really is, really is. So anyway, yeah, good evening, folks. I've got Ox, we've got Milestar, and we've got LFC. Keith, how are you, mate? I know you started something similar, actually. Ox, you're asking an interesting question. I've just realised I don't think I've ever heard Hubbard on anything other than the C64. Did he do stuff in other formats? He certainly did. Um, there's a really good book, which I actually bought. I mean, I was sent a digital copy of it, thanks to Chris Abbott, to kind of have a look at, and I did buy the book, and I think it's called The Master of Magic, and it charts Rob Hubbard's history, of making SID music, and part of that is you also Chris has put up this massive archive of music, and it's not just the C64. There's stuff, as Keith alludes to there. He did stuff in the Mega Drive. He went to work for Electronic Arts. Um, yeah, there's loads of stuff. I'll be honest, I've not really listened to it at all. Maybe that's one for another day, but this is purely going to be the SID music that he does on the C64. So, not got a mass. Well, there's 8 people. That's enough. That's enough. I mean, even if it was just me and Ox or me and Keith, whatever, or Milestar, that would be enough. So anyway, listen, I'm just gonna. I've not got. These are not in any order at all. So I'm just going to pick. So let me have a look. Let me get to PC screen. There we go. Right. Hopefully everything is working okay. Let me just check this. I need to check the properties. Uh, Deep SID. Right. Hopefully this will work. So yeah, let's go for. They're all classics. This game is a shoot 'em up released. I think was it by CR? No, No, it wasn't CRL. I'm thinking of Light. What's it called? Light Force. That was almost on my list. This was a shoot 'em up released, I think, by Firebird Software, and it's called Warhawk, and I'm sure you've probably heard it. So let me have a quick look. How do we do this? Oh, in fact, let's get rid of Rob Hubbard and type Warhawk. I don't know if it's all one word. Rob Hubbard, Warhawk. Now, obviously, some of these tunes had multiple tunes. You had sound effects and that. So hopefully, I do get the right tune. So anyway, enjoy. This is Rob Hubbard, and this is Warhawk. There we are, yeah, fitting into that. Yeah, it's a lovely piece. I was just sitting thinking there when I was listening to that. Back in the day, you didn't, whilst you thought that was like nice music, you didn't really like appreciate it as such. And it's like anything in life. Who appreciates everything that we've got? You don't appreciate things. You only ever fully appreciate anything when you don't have it. But listening to that now, you realise just like what an immature, genuinely, really, really accomplished piece of music that is. And it almost feels like a bit of an insult to have something that quality on a computer game. Does that make sense? Especially if the computer game was shite. And in many cases, that was the case. The games were crap. Um, and but there was games that I used to load just to listen to music because the game itself was rubbish. So anyway, fantastic one. Good evening, Steve. Right, the next one I'm going to pick. Let me have a look. Yeah, that Warhawk came out in 1986, and I was right, it was Firebird. Right, this next one it's not the actual, excuse me, it's not the actual game music, it's the loading music, and you can probably guess, because you're going to be able to guess every tune that's on this list. And it was for a game released by Thalamus Software, coded by Stavros Vasulai, if that's probably pronounced that wrong. And it's Sanction. Sanction, the game itself, I don't know. I'm not a massive fan of it. I think it could have been a lot better. Um, but yeah, the game itself had the theme tune to, what's it called again? The Apprentice. I can't remember. It's got a name. But yeah, Sanction loading tune. So let's see if we can find that. Yeah, like I said, there's going to be no surprises on my list at all, but that doesn't matter because they're all cracking tunes. Right, Sanction music. Okay, Sanction. If I spell that right, I have spelled it right. Right, we are Rob Hubbard. There we go, Sanction. Hopefully we've got the right one. If not, we will change it. So this is a Sanction. Yeah, this was released by Thalamus Software, I think maybe 1985. Let's take a listen. Yeah, absolute Stonewall classic. I'm not going to break it down into the technicalities of what I liked. I'm not Lycosa and I'm not Panther. I'm more stupid. I just think it's a good tune. Obviously, the bass at the very start is really iconic, but it's just yeah, it's a beautiful piece of music. It really is. Good evening, Jay. How are you? So yeah, that's my choice number two. Number three. What am I going to give you? What am I going to give you? Right. This one was a game. Oh, Martech, I think, released it. The game was programmed by Simon Nicol. It was based on or influenced by an arcade game. It did have a sequel, which was the arcade game. Can you guess what it is? And yeah, if you're a regular at the channel, one of my mates, Panther UK, he used to have a Spectrum, and he was at a mate's house, and his mate loaded this game, and it made Panther go out and buy a Commodore 64. So you know, if that's not a recommendation enough, I don't know what is. And it's Crazy Comets. So let's find it. Crazy Comets. It's ironic you've got to scroll down to actually find Rob Hubbard's Crazy Comets. Yeah, Crazy Comets was the original game. Oh, sorry, you know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking the second one was called Mad Planets. It wasn't. I'm talking absolute nonsense. Crazy Comets was. It was the Commodore 64's version of Mad Planets. Yeah, good evening, Eagle. Right, anyway, let's sit back and enjoy. This is Rob Hubbard, and this is Crazy Comets. Yeah, there you go. The whole there's certain SID tracks. There's some SID tracks that there's bits of it I think are really really impressive, and there's bits of some bits of it aren't quite as impressive. I think that's probably one of them. I'm not a massive fan of the whole SID, but I think the opening 10 seconds, that kind of haunting sort of whistling sound, it just drags you in. It's so impressive. It really, really, really is. So yeah, that was Crazy Comets. Let's knock that one off. Right, next one. What am I going to do? Right, tell you what. Let's get the obvious one out of the way. They're not in any particular order. But the first time I heard this next tune, it just blew my socks. I know I say that all the time. My jaw hit the floor. All the different things you could say about being surprised. Yeah, it was just a phenomenal tune. Uh, it's for a game by who make it? Who make it? Was it Gremlin Graphics? Yeah, Gremlin Graphics do Monty on the Run. Um, I didn't realise it's actually based on, is it Galloping something or another? I always Eve the Dell, how you doing, mate? Um, what I was going to say, yeah, it was. I always thought that this was actually an original Rob Hubbard track. It's not. It is based on another tune, but I've never made any secret that to me it's the most impressive SID track out there. I know there's more technically better things, but for an early SID tune, I describe it as like the Bohemian Rhapsody of SID music. It just goes from one section to the next, and just when you think it's finished, it raises the bar again. It's just an absolute phenomenal piece. Yeah, I'm gonna shut up and start playing this. Let me just find it. Yeah, that's my favourite SID tune, bar none. Um, let's have a look. Monty on the Run. Again, it's one of these ones you can just see. There's loads of different. There's loads of other people having a crack. There we go. Right, this is a masterpiece. If you've not got a cup of tea, go and grab a quick cup of tea and enjoy this. This is Monty on the Run by the Mr. Rob Hubbard. Woof. Yeah, what a tune. What a tune. Yeah, I get what you're saying, Ox. I think it would be. It depends what you're. If you're just saying what is the most impressive, best Sid tune, you could argue and say, well, even if it is a copy, a cover, then it's still a great tune. It doesn't make it a bad tune. But yeah, I get that. I get that making a cover is going to be easier than making one from scratch. But yeah, that's I've heard lots and lots of Sid tunes over the years, and that's still, to me, that's still the most impressive one. And I didn't know that it was a cover at the time, but yeah, it'll always be my favourite. Just, just a quick slight change. George is asking what the worst. No, is asking what the worst Sid tune is. This this one here by Jim Kumu is apparently this is generally regarded as the worst Sid tune. Just take a little listen to this. It's not good. Is it the worst? I think I've heard worse. Anyway, right. Let's get back on thing. Right, this was a late edition. This was actually my number 11. It's a game you can see. I'll just show you what it is there. It's a game released, I think, by was it Mastertronic? I can't remember. I think it was Mastertronic. Hunter Patrol. Um, Quite a short little tune, I think. But just it's lovely. It's really really nice. Don't know what's going on with the. I've got a thing up here that shows you how many folk are watching. It's currently saying 20, but then it went down to like 4, and then it went up to 18. I don't know. It's just going up and down like nothing on earth. Anyway, yeah, Hunter Patrol. There we go. Yeah, listen to this. This came out. I don't know when it came out. 85, something like that. Right, enjoy. Yeah, lovely piece. It suits the game perfectly. I've never really played the game, but I know it's a kind of little sort of third person shoot 'em up type thing. But I think it's a nice piece. It's an early piece. You can I look at the instruments. Obviously, you'll recognise from other Hubbard tunes. It's like all these SID musicians. They did kind of create their own instruments, and you hear them coming through. But yeah, lovely. Interesting there. Dave Lee's Falcon Patrol found hidden in the game Hunter Patrol, possibly as a test tune. Ah, interesting. Yeah, the Falcon Patrol SID 2 SID is excellent. Really, really good. So, anyway, yeah, that's 5 down, 6 to go because I couldn't narrow it down to 11. Evening, Mark. How are you, mate? So, let's have a look. What shall we go for next? Right, I'm going to go for one. This sounds daft, but this isn't a game that I never. In fact, I think I'd actually moved on. I'd moved on to, I think I had an Atari ST at that point. Um, there's a game that came out, which to me is the defining beat 'em up, and that's Way of the Exploding Fist. I think Mark agrees. Um, Most people will say International Karate is the better game. Probably technically it is better. But yeah, Way of the Exploding Fist every time. But it was a sequel, International Karate Plus. It was interesting that yeah, some games did get released, did get kind of sort of bettered versions. I mean, I think you had Uridium, you had Paradroid, you had Gribbly's Day Out. A lot of these games you had better versions, which was really nice. And yeah, International Karate Plus was one of them. I never really played the game. I mean, I know it is mega impressive, but the tune is something really special. Hopefully, I can find it with this. Okay, plus, there we go. Right. So yeah, enjoy. This is a long one, by the way. Yeah, what a tune! You can tell his kind of his instruments were maturing. This was kind of late on, 1987. His instruments were starting to kind of get more kind of mature sounding. I put the piano on because it's incredible when you see just how many kind of notes he was actually playing at any one time. I mean, he was like, these kind of great SID musicians that were able to have give the illusion that there was more than just like three channels. They were playing them so fast, just incredible. What's interesting, the comment at the top there, Rob Hubbard, I can remember International Karate very well, but not International Karate Plus. So that must tell me something. So he obviously preferred the original. Good evening, Mark. Marky Pierce. You sound like a rapper, mate. Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, that was what was that? That was International Karate Plus, right? We've got six down. We've got five left. What shall we play? Yeah, there's all Stonewall classics. Right, this next one is a budget game, and is it my favourite budget game? If I was to make a list of my top 10 favourite budget games, this would probably be in the top two. I couldn't decide between this and another game. What was interesting with this game, it tried to give the impression of vector graphics. It was kind of based on a really old arcade game, Lunar Lander, and it's called Thrust. It was released by, see, I'm doing all this from memory. I can't remember what I had from a tea yesterday, yet I can remember all this kind of guff. Yeah, it was released. It was probably 1985. I'm going to guess 86 by Firebird Software, and yeah, the tune was just something else. So let's have a look, and the game ain't half bad either. Fantastic. In fact, we've got the world high score champion watching this very stream, Mark, 20th Century Gaming. Mark actually holds. I don't know. Did you get it registered in? What's it called, the high score thing? Twin Galaxies. Mark actually holds the record for the highest score. Let's find it. And again, yeah, remember, this was written for a budget game. Fortunately, the game was fantastic as well. So, Rob Hubbard he would have got the accolades. It would have had the audience that it deserved. Right, here we go. Enjoy. This is Thrust. Great to listen to that one right to the very end. Uh, Interesting. Oh, where the hell did it go? Oh, hang on a second. Wait, I'm just going to pause it. Yeah, interesting what it says here. Review copies of this game had a bugged loader which mucked up the music, and so reviewers of the game gave the music a much lower rating. Julian Rignall, ex-editor of Zap, takes up the story. I remember the god-awful cacophony that was our review copy of Thrust's music as though it were still playing. This was the problem. The drum sounds worked, but all the other instrument sounds were screwed. Basically, it resulted in this horrible screeching noise playing to drums rather than the cool, heavy sound that was heard in the final version of the game. It sounded, really harsh, and so it was duly shot down by us in the review. I remember hearing the proper version of the game at a later date and thinking, oops, after all, it was a classic tune. It became one of my favourites indeed, and we'd mercilessly beat it down in the review, which was totally unfair. Still, it was good to be able to do a zap back on it and remedy the error. Never realised that. I can't actually remember what. I do remember it getting a really good review, but I can't remember what they said about the music. But yeah, I bet Rob Hubbard was pissed off when that happened. So yeah, that's we've got four left. God, it's like asking to pick your favourite child here. What one am I going to go for now? Yeah, let's have a look. One, two of the last four are budget games. You can probably guess. This Larry, I'm going to go for one of them. This last one was a game released by. It was programmed by Richard Darling, who was half of the Darling brothers, who worked for Mastertronic. They then went on to work for, well, they formed Codemasters, and then they became multi-billionaires. Um, this game, it's memorable for probably all the wrong reasons. Well, one good reason, it's memorable for the music, but it was unmemorable for two reasons. One, it was impossible to play. The controls were completely screwed up. The second one was the actual screen. The playing area on the screen was something like a third of the screen, or probably less than that. Three-quarters of the screen was made up with like the name of the game and all this kind of shite. Um, the game is the last V8. The music is absolutely fantastic. And again, this was a perfect example of a game that I would load up and just listen to the music. It's really that good. There was actually a 128 version of this. I'm not quite sure what the difference. Evening, Kev. How are you, Squire? Hope you're well. Last, I don't know if it had a different SID tune. I'm not quite sure. C. Well, we'll listen to the C128. Yeah, let's right. I've never actually heard this. This is the Commodore 128 version. I don't know if it's any different. So yeah, let's take it away. Yeah, 4.5, 4.8 out of 10. Are these scores that are on the Lemon? So what is the best? Can you tell what the highest rating SID tune is, Milestar? Be interesting to see what that is. Yeah, I think that's like a small but perfectly formed little SID tune. I was going to say it suits the game perfectly. It doesn't. The game's shite. It's a perfect arcadey type tune. I think it's really, really good. Kevin's asking, do you think games of the past still meaning in the present? Sorry, so I'm not with you, Kevin. Do you think games of the past still meaning in the present? Sorry, Kevin, I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure what you're getting at there. Do you think games of the past still meaning in the present? No, sorry, Kevin. If you maybe rephrase what you're asking, I'll answer that once. Well, I'll answer it in the chat actually. Anyway, that was the last V8. Right, we've got three to go. Right, this next one. This is actually quite unusual. It's a collaboration. It was a sequel. It was. Oh, sorry. Yeah, right. Games. You mean are they still relevant games? 150 million%. Yeah, they've obviously a lot of 8-bit games, in my opinion, have dated, not dated particularly well. You know, some games that I used to love back in the day, and I wouldn't really want to play now for any more than a few seconds. But a good game's a good game. There's some really basic games, stuff like Beam Rider by Activision. It's you probably couldn't get worse graphics, and yeah, it's an absolutely cracking game, you know. So it's a bit like anybody that disagrees. It'd be like saying that a black and white film has lesser value than the latest Star Wars film. You know, a good film, a good tune, a tune music. I mean, we're still listening to classical music that was written like 200 years ago. So yeah, absolutely. 8-bit games they're still relevant. They still have meaning in today's society. I understand a lot of people would look at them and think, don't want to play that. But yeah, in many cases, I'm not going to say that they're better than modern games because you play modern games now and they're just astonishing. It's like films, you know, they're just incredible. But 100%, a good game is a good game. Doesn't matter how old it is. So anyway, yeah, this third last one. This was a collaboration. It was the music to a sequel of a game that we've already featured, and again, it was by what do you call it, Gremlin Graphics, and it was continuing the tale of Monty Mole. Monty Mole? Yeah, it's Monty Mole. Auf Wiedersehen, Monty. Um, and Rob Hubbard, I think he tied up with Ben Dalglish for this one. Um, I had moved on to the 16-bit machines by the time this game came out, so I'd never really heard it. And when I say recently, I heard it maybe in the last 20 years, but I never actually heard it at the time. But it's a beautiful song. It's a really, really nice little tune. Beam Rider was pure adrenaline. Even now, I don't know if you've played it recently, Mark. Play it. It's still a great game. It really is. Turn the lights out. You know, turn the hi-fi up loud. Get a set of headphones, whatever it is, and just Milestar. You're missing a trick. Go and check it out. It's an ugly game. Beam Rider. You can play it in anything. It's been released for the Atari 2600, the Atari 800, VIC 20 maybe. I don't think it came out for the VIC 20. Came out in the Spectrum. I would say play the Commodore 64 one. It's phenomenal. It also came out in the ColecoVision as well, I think. But it's a great game. It's the game that I always pick when people talk about the graphics make a good game. 100% no. Right, anyway. Auf Wiedersehen. Oh God, Auf Wiedersehen Pet there is one of the worst games ever. Auf Wiedersehen Monty. Right, enjoy. Yeah, when you get Hubbard and Ben Dalglish doing a collaboration, you know it's going to be something special, and it definitely didn't disappoint. Um, yeah, listen, Mark, I would what to maybe do is if you could maybe send me a list of some of Richard Bayless's best tunes. Like I said, I'd moved away from the Commodore 64 1987, so that's why I've got a very, very sort of narrow list of musicians. I know lots and lots of, some would maybe say better musicians came along after, in the 90s. I had moved on, so I'm not familiar. So if you could maybe give me some guidance, Mark, as to some tunes, that would be wonderful. So yeah, yeah, there it's there. Tune number one's a joint venture between Rob Hubbard and Ben Dalglish. The other sub-tunes were done by Rob Hubbard, where some were arranged on paper by Ben. I just think that Gremlin thought that the original Monty in the Run was very popular, and he just didn't want to totally move away from what he did in the original, so they asked me to spend 2 days working with Ben at their office, and that's what happened. Um, whilst I'm looking forward to doing the Ben Dalglish sort of Sid show, I think it's going to be quite emotional because yeah, he's a young guy, and well, Miles Starr alluded there that he fades away in early October 2018. Yeah, it's just a marker that we're getting older, that people who influence us in our life are no longer here. So yeah, but that'll be a definite Sid show coming up. Right, two to go. I'm going to leave the obvious one to last. You can guess what it is. This next one, again, it's funnily enough, it's another Richard Darling budget game. It's a genre game that I don't like, and it's probably down to the music. I played it and I actually got to really enjoy the game. It's an adventure game, real-time adventure game. It's called Master of Magic. I think it was released by, oh, was it it wasn't was it Mastertronic? Yeah, I think it must have been because Richard Darling, yeah, he didn't do anything for Firebird. But yeah, Master of Magic. It's a long one, but it's worth it. Master of Magic. Again, it's quite an early game. It's probably not his most technically proficient piece, but it's just a bloody good tune. So where are we? Let's find it. Master of Magic. There we go. There's loads of different ones, right? Master of Magic by Rob Hubbard. Enjoy. Yeah, that piece of music just absolutely nails the game. It's perfect, absolutely perfect. And when I was playing the game back in the day, I didn't realise it was just a tune. I kind of thought that the music was changing depending on what I was doing in the game because I mean it's 5 minutes long, but just phenomenal. Like I says, yeah, I think somebody made, I think it was Mark actually, was talking about Paul Norman. He was like a master of everything, and yeah, he could write a tune that reflected and increased the ambience and the atmosphere of the game. Really, he was an absolute master of that. But that's a cracker. Anyway, listen, there's absolutely no surprise what my last tune is. If I'm ever asked to pick what is my favourite SID tune, I always go for Monty on the Run just because it's an epic track. But this one, this one is probably it's on a par. It's on a par. It's a shorter tune, but the the instruments that Rob Hubbard uses just it nails again. It nails the game. It nails the subject of the game. It makes it. It turns quite a mediocre game into a great game, and that was the reason I played it. Yeah, Keith has just said it. LFC Commando. It's got to be absolutely, and the high score table in this as well is phenomenal. As is the high score table in Monty and the Run. Very very similar, but yeah. I think if I was, oh, I don't know, if I was to rate Monty and the Run as 100%, I would probably say Commando's 100%, but I always pick Monty to Run. Commando, yeah, it's an equal, it's a draw, 100% a draw. It's just such a Stonewall classic. It's brilliant. Like I says, it makes the game. You play Commando without the music, and I've just re I've just dropped the ball here. I'm going to actually. I'm going to include another one because I thought I'd put it in the hand. So I'm going to play Commando and then I'm going to finish off with one more because I thought I'd included it and I can't believe I didn't include it. Anyway, yeah, let's get Commando going. I can't believe I missed off this other one. I'm sure there's going to be loads and loads of Commando versions. Yeah, there is going to be one more song, right? Come on, where is Commando? Commando High Score Hubbard. There we go. Right, yeah. If you want to hear a SID tune, feast your ears on this bad boy. There we go. Yeah, I think, yeah, well, there you go. This is an interesting story being Commando. I went down to their office and started working on it late at night and worked on it through the night. I took one listen to the arcade original and started working on the C64 version. I think they just wanted some semblance to the arcade version, but I just did what I wanted to do. By the time everyone arrived at 8 a.m. in the morning, I had loaded the main tune on every C64 in the building. I got my check and was on a train home by 10 o'clock. Fantastic, eh? What a what a tune. Right, listen, I'm going to play one more. Can't believe I thought this was going to be under an hour, the video. It's an hour and 37. Um, this last one, I was never really a fan of it. And I was watching, in fact, I was watching Mark 20th Century Gaming. He was doing a stream and he played this tune at the end. And I listened to it right through and I thought, wow, that is really something special. It really is. It's a game again by Thalamus Software, and it's not a game that I'm a particular fan of. I know Mark likes it, but it's a Delta, a shoot 'em up. The main tune of this is just it's something else. Rob Hubbard, Delta, right? Rob Hubbard. Hopefully this is the right one. Now I think this is quite a long tune, so let's take it away. Oops, hang on, sorry, hang on. Just get it to the right bit. Yeah, 11 minutes. Enjoy. Just remember, this is coming to Commodore 64. Yeah, that is an epic tune. Yeah, anyway, folks, listen, that is it. Like I said, I thought this was going to last an hour. We're almost at an hour and 50. Bloody hell. Well, let's get the webcam back in again. So, yeah, good stuff. So much for me going to the bloody gym. I think it's too late now. I think I'll just need to take the dogs out for a walk. So, anyway, folks, listen, thank you very much to everybody that's stuck with me tonight. Hopefully, you've enjoyed it. Bear in mind the music that your that Deep SID website, whilst it's very good, whilst it's really good, it's not 100% accurate, and these tunes do sound better on original hardware, but you're still getting a really good flavour of just how bloody impressive these things were. So yeah, I've got a list of other artists that I'm going to include. Yeah, so I will maybe do one of these next week. But anyway, right, listen, folks, have a great rest of the week. We're almost, well, we're downhill at the weekend, thank God. So until next time, folks, thanks for your support, and always, as always, thank you very much for watching.